everybody. This is Molly from the Oregon coast, Pacific Ocean. I am running Sayusla Dunes 50k by Daybreak Racing, and just wanted to welcome you to Tea and Trails with Gary Thwaites and Edwina Sutton. Enjoy!
Hello and welcome to episode 114 of the Tea and Trails podcast, and thanks for the intro, Molly. Live from the Oregon coast. I'm going to totally butcher this. It's called...
I saw it coming and I was just waiting for it.
The Sayusla Dunes 50k, and I googled it. It looks absolutely incredible. Have I? Yeah, go on then, you have a go, Eddie. How would you pronounce it?
Sayusla or Sayus? I like your version.
I went to Edinburgh at the weekend. Just talk about pronunciations.
Here we go.
The guy in the Premier Inn, he absolutely mullered. I never heard my name pronounced like that in my life. And he said, "Oh, where are you from?" He thought I was going to be
Gary Twat.
Gary Twat.
Is that what you said? Hello, Gary
That
Twat.
has actually, I have been called Gary Twats quite a few times.
That's how you're in my phone book.
Excellent. And he's like, "Where are you from?" He thought I was going to say somewhere really exotic. I'm like, "Durham." He's like, "Oh, really, really disappointed." Look, please keep those intros coming in. Email them to hello@teaandtrails.com. Also, please consider joining Patreon. This is the best way to support the podcast, and for the price of a cuppa, you are the ones that keep the lights hot and the mics on. Big hugs to everyone who has joined Patreon over the last week.
And Gary's turned his light on because he was really upset because he didn't have his light on when we talked to the core guy. And you were like, I've got
a light there. I've got lights there.
You know the one that goes around the lady in Titanic, the actress at the end when she goes, and it's a meme that people say when they say it's young Kate Winslet, and he goes, "I'm just going out for my run, darling," and then she's like, "How it's been 80 years." That's what you and I looked like with my light, my sensational skincare routine, which I take you through.
But Toby must have been, goodness me, 25 tops.
Tops, young, fresh, bit disappointed with his 1:18 half marathon time.
I know, yeah. Flexing.
He wasn't, Toby. Though. He was just like, yes.
Yeah, totally genuine.
Such a nice guy. Such a nice guy.
Well, don't forget, if you join Patreon but you would like a snood or a bobble hat, then you need to add your address to Patreon. I know it's a bit confusing, Patreon. Apologise for that. But no address, no goodies.
I see in the inbox chat of bobble hats, black snoods, or you are in the background like you're hustling for that. But you hustle. I have to say, this bobble hat, my Tea and Trails bobble hat, is the only one that's been sacrosanct from going on the treadmill for heat training. So I've got two because they've got fleecy bits, so it makes it even hotter because you know me, Gary. And I took the wrong one that I hadn't dried out properly and I put it back on my head. It was one of the most disgusting sensations I have ever wet fleece of a day-old sweat. I was almost sick. It was disgusting. Thank you to X Miles, Precision Fuel and Hydration, Harrier Trail Running, Phoenix Light UK, Shocks and Protein Rebel for sponsoring this week's show. You guys are going crazy for these earphones. We see you. We see you out there spending your hard-earned penny. But this Shock Springs promotion ends on 31st of March. So where are we? 26th? Or maybe the day this podcast goes out. You can save up to 23% off over at uk.shocks.com. Use the code T10 for a further £10 off over at uk.shocks.com. We've seen a little bumper sales. I reckon that's Northern Traverse, Lakes Traverse people. More Traverse getting the fear of like my own thoughts. Oh no, I need some earphones.
I'm going to jump all over it. Lisa wants some headphones, so I am going to make a purchase too. Thanks X Miles for sponsoring this week's show. X Miles is a family-owned independent endurance sport retailer that provides nutritional goods, apparel and accessories to help athletes perform and recover at their best. X Miles offer a wide range of high-quality products from leading brands, and their team of nutrition experts, cyclists, runners and outdoor enthusiasts can provide expert advice and guidance to help you reach your goals. Whether you're a seasoned athlete or just getting started, X Miles is the perfect place to find everything you need to succeed. Use the code TTrails10 for 10% off over at www.xmiles.co.uk.
Links to all our sponsors, Patreon, and the Tea and Trails Ultra Weekend, it's creeping up, can be found in the show notes and over at www.teaandtrails.com. Very grateful as well if you're on, oh, there he is, flexing the cap. Grateful to Yugoku Projects for producing a Tea and Trails cap. Oh my gosh, I love mine. I've been wearing it every single day. Pop over to Yugoku Projects if you'd like one. Don't forget, patrons can receive 20% off.
I've loved seeing all the pictures over on Instagram or Facebook, various people who have bought the Tea and Trails cap. Russell, our kick-ass coach too, yeah, he was sporting a Tea and Trails cap.
Looking sensational, rugged. Those cheekbones.
It was the stare into the distance, wasn't it?
He's got that look. He's got it nailed down.
Entries for the Tea and Trail Ultra Weekend are live. So if you would like a weekend of trail running, entertainment and camping in the Lake District, then head over to www.teaandtrails.com.
There's talk about potentially childcare issues that weekend, Gary. I might be there with 3 children and 2 dogs by myself.
Oh my goodness.
But I tell you what, wouldn't that just be perfect? Because people would be like, as we would be live recording, I'd be going, as Finley always mocks me going on, I go, you wait till I get you home, come in and sit down. Hi everybody.
Hiya.
Hiya, nice to meet you. We'll make it work. We'll make it happen. There'll be enough people there. Oh, and Trisha's going to be there. She's got her kids there too. It will be fine. I'll send them out off on the 50k.
Yeah. See you in 7 hours.
Are they back? Yeah, I don't think so. I don't know. Or one of them will come back and go there.
In the pub.
Oh, she's over there. She's not very. She's still on Grisdale. She's not coming back.
How is your week? I've been looking at your deeds, Eddie. I'm feeling for you.
Gary, it's so you can tell we're in a good place now, but we had some lows last week. When I left you, didn't I? You were coming to Edinburgh, not coming to see me, but it was a long solo stint. And when you're coming to the end of your solo stint and then you hear that Heathrow is closed due to a fire, I was like, no, that cannot happen. That cannot happen. I was then facing a weekend of more single parenting. Anyway, he's a man mountain, my husband. He got home, not a problem, closed airport, fire. He just went the other way around the world. Came back the other way. Yeah, we had Gary, I made some foolish virgin errors of trying to work, train and the kids. I think the highlight was Wednesday evening where I Why, Gary? I did a big heat training session in the afternoon. And then I left the house at 5 to go and start picking the kids off, taking them to all their various sports things. And we got home at 10:20. I didn't have any food. I had just a small flask of tea.
Well, after our chat with Toby that we're going to share later on, I can't understand how you cope the rest of the day.
I was like, I'm driving, my head was like pounding. I was like, you chose poorly, but I don't help myself, do I, Gary? I'm like, well, why did I do that? Because I'm just trying to, juggle it all. Anyway, very proud of myself because I'm always a bit down on myself of like, it's really hard. I did all my work. That should be done first, but we know, we're runners as well. I did all my training. I think I missed a 5-mile training run on one of the days in the evening. Recovery run, it got dropped because I had to go early to do. I can't even remember. I ticked all the boxes, so I was pretty proud of myself of doing that. Saturday morning, I drove to the hills, which meant my long run was slightly shorter than, if I ran from home, I'd have got 3 hours in, but I decided to drive the 15 minutes to the hills, which made my long run shorter, but I thought it's going to be so much better. In the sleet and the clag, didn't even see the lock that I was running around.
No way.
I literally saw nothing apart from I could hear the sheep and Lindy could hear the sheep, and that was it. We didn't mind because we could feel
better than the treadmill. Much better than the treadmill.
Yes, and the treadmill. I don't know. I love the treadmill. I never have a problem with the treadmill because I just love the control. It feels like the ultimate.
Yeah.
Being a control freak, it feels like, and also being a busy person, it feels like the ultimate way to absolutely destroy yourself in an hour. Whereas I can't do that so much on the road. You can just I did it this week. You can just nail in that heart rate and then just watch that heart rate. Whereas when you're running and you can just keep going a little bit faster, a little bit faster. Anyway,
I stop when I'm running. Any excuse. I'm like,
any excuse. Car coming,
begging
lorry
for
coming,
Rex. Yeah.
yeah.
Have a chat with a dog walker. Don't run on the treadmill.
Flag them down. You're right, where you going? Oh, interesting. Who are you delivering to? Oh, I can do that for you if you want. It's no problem.
I love a claggy run though. You know when you have a claggy run, it's like you have some kind
it's like
of
a little exfoliation, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's something about being out in the wilds that it doesn't really matter if you're in the mountains. I don't like really strong wind and rain in the mountains because you're like battled down. But bit of clag, and how many people did I see? Oh, I was going to say 0. I saw 2 people in the car park. They were getting all ready. I love it when you meet people at like the trailhead, as the Americans, and they were getting all ready to go walking, and they were doing the same route as me, and they had like massive backpacks. They were putting their shoes on, and I had my little Harrier belt with my waterproof and my gloves in the back, and a water bottle, snack for me, snack for Lindy. And they were like, so what do you loop it? I said, I'm doing this loop round, and I'm going to cut through the valley. So they said, we were doing that too. I said, I think it's about 12 miles. And they were like, how long will that take? I didn't want to go like, well, it's going to be like 2 hours because I've got to be back here. And they were like, it's probably, we're out probably 8-9 hours. I thought it's so much quicker running. It is so much quicker running.
Yeah, but imagine the snacks they had, Eddie.
Oh, tea, snacks, probably better chat, because I also said to Lindy, we're not walking. We're not walking up any of these hills. And there's a couple of bits that are 35%. I said, we're not walking. We are running the whole way. And as is the way of lovely Lindy when she's on her canicross lead, downhill, flat, she gives a nice little tug. Uphill, not bothered about that. I'm going to go sideways.
What is that about? Rex is exactly the same.
Won't pull me up. I'm like, go on, give it some. And she's like, what? What are you doing? I'm like, you know.
We were out on Sunday. Some of the hills are quite spicy in the Dean. And I thought, I was like, I'm going to try and run these. And I'd look around at the rest of the group and they were walking as fast as I was
right behind
running.
you. Yeah, damn.
No point.
But I like the biomechanics of running uphill more than hiking. I'm much more comfortable with a short step. And I actually find my heart rate is actually lower by doing that than by hiking. I am the worst hiker.
Maybe I should just own that slow jog, even though everyone else is
and then
walking.
just chat to people as you're anyway, I did my workouts, did them all on the treadmill. I mixed it up last week, as I said. I'm so disappointed, Toby, didn't I? Core on the app, you spend hours and hours, and eventually you become a heat champion. And I wanted to show him on my phone that I was a heat champion, but my battery died with my last training session, so it didn't log the last training session, which would have moved it. I tried to explain it, he wasn't interested, funnily enough. So I did a little bit of experiment. I tried doing one of my workouts with the heat suit on to see what would happen.
Yeah.
I don't know the science behind this. I probably think there's not been any test to do it, because funnily enough, there's no test on middle-aged women training for 200-mile races in a heat suit. I think the market for that would be huge. Surely someone would fund that.
What a niche study that is.
I reckon it's probably 10 of us. No, not even 10 of us. Maybe like 5 of us. So I was wondering, I thought, I don't need to run fast. I know, you should still have your speed. I know it all, but I really like running fast. So I thought, if I put my heat suit on, I do my efforts a lot slower, but I'm still getting the same heart rate. Is that giving me any boost of training in the fact that my heart rate is at just above threshold? But because I'm going like a minute per mile, maybe even 2 minutes per mile slower than if I was running the effort.
You're not training for a 10K, are you? Where you really need to know what it's like to run fast.
All I'm looking for is a massive aerobic capacity, and the ability to just suffer. So
the heart has no idea what you were doing.
So I didn't put the trousers on. I didn't put the painter's suit on, as Bryn calls it. He actually was taking photos of me. So I said, if those end up on the internet, you are in trouble.
Wait,
he was
send them
laughing
over.
so much. He came and he went, "You've missed a corner over there." He thought it was so funny. Anyway, so I didn't. I just had leggings on, but I put and I didn't have mittens on, which I normally have. But I had the hat and I had the now 6 layers on. Now this is advanced because obviously I am now a heat champion, Gary. I've done a lot of this, so don't do this. Don't try and do your heat training with the. I just thought, let's see, and it wasn't too bad. I quite enjoyed. Yeah, I couldn't run at my heart rate, so my heart rate was 155, which is my kind of like long threshold heart rate. Can hold that for a long time, but it was a lot slower, not that much slower, maybe a minute per mile.
All these things I'm thinking about with if I buy one of these heat sensors and how it's incorporated.
Please, someone. Just
so if you are red hot, then in theory your heart rate is through the roof.
I am red hot.
Your heart rate is through the roof, but you're moving quite slow, so you're not huffing and puffing like you would see if you were doing a mile repeats.
No.
What's that sensation like?
It's a strange sensation, Gary, because it's a little bit discombobulating because you can feel the heartbeat. You can feel that you're hot, but you're not going like I would be. But I did get a little bit out of breath with the heat suit on. But I think because I've done so, I felt really quite good. And I quite enjoyed the fact that I got those heartbeats up, but I wasn't pushing. I didn't come away from the workout going, oh, so I was like, is this am I finding a new way to like maybe coming back from injury? Like you're not pushing the pace, so the injury risk is gone. I mean, I was totally dehydrated. And so I've got that as well. But I really enjoyed it. And I think, well, if I really enjoyed it and I felt good after it, didn't feel too wiped out. Then I did my session again this week without the heat suit on, just sports bra leggings. Absolutely flew, Gary. I could go 10 beats higher on the heartbeats, but I was able to push. I felt I had so much in my legs. So
never wanted something so much in my life.
It's really interesting, but I don't know how much of that is because it's so hard in the heat suit. When you take it off, it's like the Hulk, and you're like, oh my God, this feels so, to feel the cold air on my skin. I'm like, oh my gosh, that feels so good.
It's like if you go for a run, isn't it? It's not the same thing, but you go for a run, those odd occasions where you don't have a hydration vest on, and it's just like, oh my goodness.
Shorts and t-shirt, the sun is shining, and the reps are obviously going to feel better. I'll stop banging on about all the heat training.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty happy with the way that it's gone, the way that I feel. Wow, it's been a tough 6 weeks, but I'm going to carry on doing it, Gary. I'm carrying on. I got all my strength done. That was hard work. We should touch on this, Gary, because it was quite a big part of my week last week because I was all by myself and I didn't talk to anybody apart from my children the whole week and you, that I followed Jamie Lang's ultra journey. Did you follow any of this?
Well, you couldn't not follow it, really. It was literally impossible not to see what he was up to. But he's not, I don't want to sound like a hater, this is not where I'm coming from, but he's not my demographic. He's from that kind of, is it Spencer Matthews, Chelsea, Only Way is Chelsea?
Only Way is Chelsea, Made in Chelsea. Come
Made
on,
in Chelsea.
You don't watch it. You love it. You've watched all the series. You can't get enough
He was not someone I would normally gravitate to watch. But wow, you is like, what, a couple of million? 2.5 million or something? So it was an ultra every day. So was it like 30 miles he was doing?
Yeah. It was quite hilly, I think, as well. And but yeah, so I dropped the kids off at school. We listened to it on the Friday morning and I was like, we're not donating. We're not donating because I'm really worried about his mental health. He's just going to, what's he going to do? How's he going to get home? Nobody's put anything. When I went out running, I wanted to hear him finish and I went out running with the dogs and had it on my earphones. You see, I was quite too invested in this.
Wow.
So this woman came on the radio and they'd lost a family member to suicide and it was a terribly sad young family member. It was a terribly sad story. I was out running with the dogs in like a sort of like a common dog walking area and it came on the radio, Gary. I started crying. Couldn't stop crying. I had tears. There was snot. This dog walker stopped and asked me if I was okay because I was like, anyway, stopped, got my phone out, donated £40. I felt terrible because I thought all week I've been going, this poor chap, they've absolutely ruined him probably forever. His HRV is going to be...
Goodness me, I wonder what it is. Well, yeah, like I said, it's not my demographic. I don't normally gravitate to those people, but he is a vehicle to raise a phenomenal amount of money. I
thought I might have been a good role model for the kids because this guy's been out there eating some money. But
there's no story. If you pick say, maybe quite a few people from our community, they could probably do, it's like, say, the Dragon's Back race or Cape Wrath. They are tough. I'm not saying these are not easy, but we could do it. But when you pick someone who's not trained for that, wow, what a story. And the bits I saw, oh my goodness me, it was pretty captivating and engaging content. So, yeah, and if it inspired people, if you've gone from Monday being a bit down on it to Friday donating, it's fantastic.
I got the week done though. It wasn't easy, but then, and I beat myself up a bit on Sunday. I didn't have time for a mega long run, so I just did that little mountain run with Lindy, and I thought, oh, I just can't. I'm struggling to fit this all in. Then I look back at my 4-week stats, which I think we're all guilty of doing as well. Is that Sunday night comes, I'm like, I didn't fit that in. I didn't do well enough there, and then I look back at my actual stats, and I'm like, come on, Eddie, give yourself a break. It was good. It was fine.
Give yourself a break.
Trending up one. Take a breath. We had some bad news this week, Gary. We got the boiler serviced, and the boiler has now got a big sticker on saying
condemned.
It should be what's stuck on me. Condemned. R.I.P. It was so broken he couldn't even turn it back on. So we've not had any heating for it's going to be 10 days. I tell you what. Those evenings, thank God for the heat suit. Just pop that on, Gary. Just pop the heat suit on.
Still a bit fresh in the mornings. I know it gets nice during the afternoon, but...
During the day, fine. Coming in from your run in the evening or coming in from the school run, a little bit parky. In the morning, dressing gowns are still on. Or just the heat suit. Just pop. I say to the kids, how many layers do you want on? You can
just so you all walking around with your heat suits on.
It's going to be expensive. I was like, do we need a boiler?
I've got a big furry poncho that I wear, and I have to take it off when someone knocks on the door because I feel a bit embarrassed.
I can't believe I've never seen you in your big furry poncho.
That's only for Patreons, Eddie.
Signing up now. Anyway, you were quiet last week. I missed you. I had to handle that inbox. Another load on my plate, Gary.
You did well.
I think I replied to 2 emails. Exhausted.
Oh, imagine the bandwidth that took up. Well, all I'd say is you pay the price for a few
People weren't happy
days.
with you, Gary. Oh, where's the podcast?
I did warn them. Yeah.
I know, we all know that. Everybody knew that too. They picked them up.
I thought, I knew we need to embrace and enjoy this weekend. I've not been drinking alcohol. I've not been having treats this year so far, and I fell off both of those wagons. I thought it was the oldest pub in Edinburgh, but when we turned up, it was the actual oldest pub in Scotland. Fueled up in the pub and then strolled back. It was just a magical day. You know, where I live in the evening, the people on the e-scooters come out and stuff like that. It gets a bit wild out on the trails around Holyrood. Oh yeah, the e-bikes, e-scooters is pretty wild.
So we've got our lane is a bit of a cut through down to the next village, and the people that just chuck their McDonald's or whatever out the window, and I'm like, at what point does that moment when you chuck it out and you think, that's all right. I want to write a book called Things I Found in a Hedgerow. Last week I ran past, I didn't even know these were a thing, half a packet, 6 Penguin chocolate bars, 3 still left in the packet, mint flavour. I reckon someone had bought those and then gone, I don't like them. And I'm just going to chuck those out. Do you think I picked them up, took them home?
A little treat. That is probably my least favourite chocolate, little biscuit, a Penguin.
So much chocolate in a Penguin, Gary. Anyway, sorry. Back to
this walk around Holyrood, it was just magical. The sun was going down. All of the people who were running, after work, the cyclists. These moments don't come around very often when all 4 of us together where we're not bickering over something. I don't think we argued. It was quite funny. Maybe I've got this wrong, but I'm pretty sure George set me up. We went for a meal and George had told me if you are 16, you can have alcohol in a restaurant as long as you're accompanied by adults and having a meal. So we tried to order him beer, and he got ID'd. Esme got ID'd too, but Esme is actually 18, so she could have a drink. But I was so embarrassed, Eddie, honestly. I was very uncomfortable doing it anyway, and then reluctantly I gave in to the peer pressure, and then got asked for ID. But I don't even know if it's a thing. We did a little bit of a Googling earlier, and it's still a bit up in the air if the restaurant was incorrect or my son tried to set me up.
Sneaky beer, I love it. Good work, George.
He never had a beer. Running wise, super simple. simple. Let's just go and run around Arthur's Seat. I didn't even get a local legend. I went up there 6 times in 2 days. Surely
Somebody
that would
else
be...
has been up there. I don't know what the algorithm is for local legend.
I don't know. It's the most times over a period of days, whatever that is. But yeah,
Isn't it 90 days? I think it's 90 days.
But sometimes I've
You
got
have
the
to go
Lake
back.
District. We'll just do something once or twice. And it's like, I was like local legend on elements of the Bob Graham run, which I thought, this doesn't make any sense at all. I live on the East Coast. Anyway, yeah, I could run most of Arthur's Seat. There's the top bit where it gets a bit scrambly. So I had to walk that. So yeah, basically 3 times. I did exactly the same run both days. Up, down, up, down, up, down 3 times. Quite a lot. I think it was like over 2,000 feet of vert for that little run. I just didn't want any, I didn't want to be doing workouts or anything like that. I didn't want any heavy lifting mentally while I was up in Edinburgh. I just wanted to enjoy my time. Although, yes, even though they weren't workouts, we've already established my run is probably as fast as some people's walking, still gets the heart rate quite elevated. So I was never in that zone 4, but probably high zone 3. I'm assuming she was an influencer. You must have been to Arthur's Seat before in the past.
No. No, we're not gone up it, but obviously I've seen it, but yeah, not been up it. We'll go up it, promise.
So it starts off quite rocky, so they're not really a path. You couldn't say push a buggy there. And then the path gets a bit easier. Then right at the end, it is a bit of a scramble. She was in like proper massive stilettos. By the time I went up and come back down, she'd given in. She was shuffling down on her bum. She like literally was like,
Did you offer to swap? Did you say, I'm pretty handy in a pair of stilettos?
These my Vaporflies. I'll take you. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. Anyone I know who's a parent or got a loved one, when they wave goodbye to them.
Oh no, don't! I can't bear it. Mine are never leaving. Never leaving. Did you last time you went? Didn't you go to the dungeons? Did you do anything like that this time?
I went for a run one day. Then I met Lisa and George in the galleries, the National Galleries in Edinburgh, whatever the official name is. That was like a 10 out of 10 experience. I love it. Oh, sad times though. Cross country got cancelled, so Sedgefield, we are relegated. But Every Cloud, that did free me up for 4 hours on the trails on Sunday.
Sorry, Sedgefield.
Again, I've mentioned Russell a couple of times this week, but I saw Russell had shared something. He had a 10k race last weekend, and it was Monday or Tuesday. He shared a post thinking, trying to find an excuse why he didn't have to do the race. And I always, as much as I enjoy cross country, I find it quite a high stress environment. So I'm always looking for a way out.
Was that your first year in that league? Because you won the league last year, was that right? Or is it?
We're a bit of a yo-yo club, to be honest. We go up to the second division, and then maybe if we stay in the second division, that's a successful year for us. But yeah, we do go up and down. So yeah, that's the goal for next year. Try and get promoted. The only workout I did was 40-minute uphill. It's called an up tempo, but it is that high zone 3.
It's my favourite place to be. Apart from on the sofa watching Netflix, high zone 3.
Apart from now, I think I mentioned last week, my Garmin has adjusted all my... So if I'm trying to please my Garmin, then I do end up in low zone 4 because that's what it's telling me.
I adjusted mine myself. I went in because I was like, it's just 2 or 3 beats too high, that high zone 3. It's definite. I'm going to take it down, and then we're all in a nicer place. It's a nicer place to be. I know those 2 beats higher. It just takes a little bit more. It's a bit more glute action going on that I don't want. So I just manually adjusted, Gary, and I'm not ashamed.
Well, I could cope with how it used to be. It was very nice. I think my zone 3 was about like the top end of it was like my heartbeats was 142 beats, but now it's like 148 beats. So I know there's no way.
Oh, that's big. Yeah, I think I'd put that back down 145. Just manually adjust. Don't do it in a dark room. Nobody's looking when you're all by yourself, and just go in and just change it down a bit, and then just pretend it never happened.
I need to tip up to a park run and just rinse myself for 5k. Then you can kind of really gauge where you are for all these paces, because I do know where my Garmin says it gives me. It's not. I've not set a training plan up, so it's not giving me any workouts to lead up to a big event. It's just giving me what it thinks would be good for me that day based on maybe the few days before.
Nothing. So based on nothing if it's to do with Garmin. Just pulling it out.
So it says my tempo runs, my threshold pace is probably a little bit slower than what I think it is. So I'm not too sure what it is.
Yeah, right. It can't be that slow.
Did the workout. The week actually was pretty good. I think I mentioned last week that however the week would be. We've been away for a few days, but I was really lucky. Lisa never gave me any grief for popping off for an hour,
what
hour
an
and
angel.
a half.
Hour and a half. 2 hours, 4 hours.
Well, yeah, she did say that.
I know the tricks. You don't need to teach an old dog. It'll be about 2 hours.
She's been asking me how much the car sensor costs, and I'm like, well, it depends, blah 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 blah. And she's like, just come on, Gary, come on. We have this dance every time you want to buy something.
So you just go, Eddie bought it for me, Coach Eddie.
I dipped into the Patreon pot.
Patreons don't believe we will not allow that to happen.
No.
What have you entered, Gary? What have you entered?
Well, not officially because entries are not open, but I can confirm if I'm fit and well. It's easy for me to say, yes, I'll be on the start line, but there's a lot of running to go before then. If I'm fit and well, then I will be on the start line for the 2026 200-miler Northern Traverse.
You cannot. You cannot. And maybe I will be too. Who knows? Let's see. The
imagine
weather,
that.
I would just love to race you to Ennerdale and you to get there in 2 hours 15 and then to walk for the next 80 hours. The
that would be
weather
spicy,
next
wouldn't it?
week, if you're doing your last bits of preparation for any of those races, fingers crossed the weather forecast holds to what it says it's going to be like, because it could not be more different than what it was like last
It's sold out though, wasn't it?
year.
2025, all of the various races are sold out.
I don't know the deets, but I know that they're super popular this year. And if they have the weather that it looks like, it's going to be a fantastic weekend. I almost was like, should I just enter? I could take it
Go for a long run.
Just put the heat suit on.
Yeah, he trained. He'd be all right. But I did notice, yes, the reason why Northern Traverse came on my radar, 2026 entries will be open soon. And you can sign up for one of these early bird newsletter things, so you will be first to hear when entries actually open. Thanks, Phoenix Light, for sponsoring this week's interview. The best design comes from the actual needs of users. Phoenix takes providing mobile lighting products with excellent performance as the goal and born for harsh environments as its mission. Never forget why you started, and your mission can be accomplished. We've been lucky enough to be sent the HL18R-T version 2.0 headlamp.
Look, you're good mates with the Phoenix people now, Gary. Can we have a competition just to name the new headlamp?
Mega Boom.
Okay, we don't need a competition. I think we've just got it. Mega Boom.
Yeah, I will post yours out soon. But you get 800 lumens from this maximum, and it weighs in at a meager 103 grams, and that includes everything. I think sometimes when these people put their weights out there, they don't include the battery, the straps, and this and that. But that includes everything.
Have you got the old one? Yeah.
Yeah, got the old one.
Can you feel the difference?
Oh my goodness me! Yes, that is a lot lighter, significantly lighter. So I think this is going to be my
just having your backpack all the time if you just go out. But yeah,
if you go for a run, sometimes this time of year things might take a little bit longer than you thought, and you're chasing the sunlight at the end of the day. Super handy. It's got that little whistle on it too.
Thank
it's got
goodness. When you run away, I can call you back.
It's got a warm light. It's got the white light that I know you like the warm light. Also got a red light too, and a little SOS feature on there. So if you are lost on the trails, really good. But this is currently $62.95 over at www.phoenixlight.co.uk, and don't forget, Patreons, you can enjoy a further 10% off. We've gone all techie this week. Tobi Schmid from Core joins us today to share some knowledge around the Core sensor app and heat training. I reckon he did a good enough job to convince Lisa. And if our chat gets your juices flowing or your core temperature up, then you are in luck. I should be a comedy scriptwriter, Eddie, with that kind of wit. Listeners get a whopping 10% off over at X Miles, and patrons, you lucky patrons, you get an extra 10% off too. There is a separate code over on Patreon. You need to add both codes, one one doesn't cancel out the other. I think sometimes if you add two codes, it like
Yeah.
nullifies the other one. It doesn't. They both work. I have tried it.
You have?
Also, the Patreon code that will expire at the end of April. So if there's something that you'd like to try, don't hang about. Today, we are stoked to be joined by Toby Schmid, product manager over at Core. Now, heat training, heat acclimation, it's so popular with runners at the moment. It is all over my social media. And I think, to be honest, runners, as usual, will probably be a little bit late to the party. I think cyclists and triathletes will have been using this bit of tech for years. Now, we on the Teen Trails podcast, or Eddie has been using the product for a little while, probably over a month now. We followed Eddie's journey. It caught my attention, and it's caught the attention of lots of our listeners too. And they've been reaching out. So we reached out to Core via Xmiles, and hopefully today we'll share some knowledge and answer some of their questions too. Thanks for joining us today, Toby. Toby is a trail runner, so he speaks our language.
Thanks a lot for hosting me, and I'm pretty excited to talk about heat training and all correlated stuff.
Hands up confession, I'm going to use this episode as I'm trying to lobby my wife, Toby, so I can purchase the core sensor. She's not convinced at the moment, so yeah, I'm going to bookmark this in her podcast. But before we get into all of the details, we ask all of our guests, where are you? What is the view from your window? And have you been for a run today?
So I'm currently in our headquarters in the office in Zurich, Switzerland. I haven't been on a run today this morning since I had a race yesterday, but I will go for easy recovery jog potentially this afternoon after I finished work. So yeah, still more work than training, but that's how life goes.
What's it like? So Zurich, Eddie and I turn up at your door, unexpected, but we're asking you to take us for a run. Where are you going to take us? Is there any local highlights?
Probably the Berg. It's like the hill above Zurich, so you have a nice view over the city and the lake, and if the weather is good, also on the Swiss Alps. So that's probably my most favorite spot here, but otherwise, of course, going to the Alps, which are super close.
What is the core temperature sensor? It's not, I visualize like a temperature sensor, like a thermometer. So it is not your traditional thermometer that you might stick on your mouth or maybe in your ear. How does it work?
Yeah, so basically that's already the most, or nearly one of the most important pieces. So it's a non-invasive sensor. You're just adding it on your heart rate belt, and then it's sitting on your skin. And how the sensor is working, many devices are using just solely skin temperature. But what we are having at Core is our internal technology, which is called heat flux, or the sensor in the core is basically measuring how much heat energy is leaving your body. So how much thermal watts basically are going from your body to the outside. And with that information, plus the skin temperature, and we then developed some algorithms to calculate your core body temperature.
So did you use it yesterday? So it's not just, we've been talking about it, for heat acclimation up to a race, but you could actually use it then race day to kind of course change if you feel your body getting a bit too hot.
Correctly. So during race day, it's like another vital metric. So it's a new vital metric, same as heart rate monitor. So it's coming from inside your body, which is a measure of your strain. And we are obviously focusing on thermal strain. If the race is a bit longer, you can easily then observe your own, let's say, thermal threshold where you can go to, how hot you can go, or into how high heat strain you can go. And then you can adjust accordingly also in race day with active cooling, or you need to reduce your power or speed.
I'm probably getting a bit too ahead of myself, but so when you are doing your acclimation and you may hit the, whatever it is, the heat zone 3. So for training then, that would be maybe where you'd want to be, but on race day, that is not where you want to be.
Correct. Yeah, that's already one of the most important things to understand when talking about heat training. We at Core developed a so-called heat strain index, where we are combining the core temperature and the skin temperature, because the point I want to get to is you can have a high core temperature at a low outside environment. Like now, if you're running, let's say, a half or a 10K in bib shorts and a singlet, it's pretty easy for your body to get rid of all the heat. But if it's in 30 degrees in summertime, you're feeling the same heat, or the same core body temperature has a way different effect or impact on your performance and body. That's why we then came up with this heat strain index, where we combined basically core and skin temperature. And the biggest thing behind basically the increase in core temperature is you need to be aware that while producing muscle movement, only around 20% of our energy we're having in the body is used for locomotion, so to propel you forward. And 80% of all your energy you're eating all day or during race is just excessive heat. And that's why this heat component is such a big factor.
And does it decouple? So if you get hotter and hotter and hotter, then your pace per effort, it almost like decouples. Have I kind of got that right?
Correct. Yeah, that's correct. That's where then our usage of those heat zone is coming in. So we use this heat strain index to determine the thermal strain on your body. And then for easy training and racing guidance, we divide it into different zones. And if you get to a too high heat strain, then it just decouples, as you said, and your performance basically just drops. That's obviously not what you want in racing, but in training, you need this elevated thermal strain on your body to elicit the heat adaptations, which we'll talk about in a minute.
We've all been there, haven't we? Race day, maybe not so many hot days in the UK, but when it's been a super hot day and you look down at your Garmin and your heart rate is through the roof, but you're not actually moving that fast. Is it this is where this is where my wife's going to ask the question. Is it for everybody? We've got a wide ranging community, from podium finishers to mid-packers and first-time racers. Is this bit of tech? Please say yes, Toby. Is it for everybody?
Yes, it is. So of course I need to say that no, but it's really for everybody. So, and with the example you brought, it's as you said, it's now more seen in the, let's say, high performance range, but it's really coming down to the enjoyment you can also have during a race. So if you prepared for your race with some regular training, it doesn't need to be on a pro level with a huge amount of volume. But if you just know, hey, the race is in summertime, it's just, you can use the core sensor to learn to teach your body how to deal with the heat and just to have a better performance. You don't need to win, but even if you do your project, just to finish the project, that can also be a decisive edge then.
Is there a percentage number attached to it? So if you become heat acclimatized, is there is it 5% better potentially performance-wise?
So what was shown in studies, which are mostly done on cycling, since it's just more controllable in a sports science setting, is that the heat can impair the time trial performance in, for example, this study was done on a 43K time trial. It was around 26% decline in power.
Wow, okay.
On this time trial, and after 2 weeks, 10 days to 2 weeks, it was reduced to only 3 to 5% of performance decline due to the heat.
That's fascinating, because if you are time poor, then you can really then tailor where you spend your time training, depending on the percentage of the gains that you're going to get from various different things. I'm really interested in the passive side of this heat training. I visualize myself lying down, watching the TV, or maybe in a sauna, in some kind of blankets. What are the pros and cons and the differences, I suppose, between passive and active heat training?
Yeah, that's a fair question. So basically, I will start now with the active. It's quite obvious that it's probably more important for your body to know how to deal with the heat when you're self-producing it. As I said before, you're producing such a high percentage of heat with the muscular movement. So then it's also probably important to get to know, due to heat training, how to work with this increased heat strain. And that's basically the mechanism in the active heat training. Yourself are producing the heat and then just trap the heat with clothing or such a goofy heat suit we are selling, and just you probably know it. Basically what you're doing there is just to create a hot microclimate around your body. Can basically seen as similar to going into a low or mild sauna and train there. So you just want to trap the heat. And that's what you're doing with active training. So you're creating the heat yourself. And in passive, as I said, for example, in sauna or hot bath, the heat is coming from outside. Yeah. So you're just having a super high environmental temperature or thermal strain, and your internal are probably not as high, or you're rather resting. And so that can be a bit of a difference. But what has been shown, and that's also a new feature which is coming into the app, that you can also log your passive sessions is that there are the same heat adaptation mechanism if you do it correctly. So if you want to do passive in your example, Gary, there you should go directly after exercise.
I see.
Yeah. And the reasoning behind that is during exercise, you're elevating your core temperature. And then if you go inside a sauna with the elevated core temperature, you're so fast increasing the skin temperature.
Okay.
And that goes then into those heat adaptation mechanisms.
Did you say the new Core app will measure the passive heat training?
Yeah, it's basically a manual input form, since you shouldn't use the sensor in a hot environment, since it's electronics.
So how does it fit into the week? I'm just kind of trying to visualize the protocol. I'm mindful that doing too much, basically, if somebody says to me, I've got to do this 3 times a week, that's going to be awesome. I will do that on top of everything else that I already do and without much really thought, or maybe the negative impacts of that.
Yeah, for us in training, a really important question, since we just have those time budget or energy budget itself. And if you just look on the high elite level, if you take it to the extreme, they have just a energy budget they can take, or a strain budget. So they can't just train all day, so they need to rest. And that's the same if you come in with a new heat stimuli to your body. So it also takes something from your body. So you need to build in carefully. I wouldn't advise to just put three more sessions to your regular training schedule. It's rather some sessions are switched up with the heat training, or you can do passive in addition. But then, of course, you need to be a bit aware that the strain is a bit higher. You can easily fit it in a heat or a training schedule if you're also a recreational runner. But then you need to replace rather some sessions.
I can only really lean on my experience with heart rate monitors. Optical on your wrist, not so good. Optical on your arm, fine. And your chest strap seems fine too. Other issues with the sensor potentially, is there a lag between the data? I suppose, again, I'm just trying to think of a situation where I think I might be in zone 3, but the actual sensor's delayed by 2 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever it is, 20 seconds.
That's a super good point. And the most important point about temperature is to remember that when you start sprinting, the first thing increases is your power, or your speed. So, and then from time to time, your heart rate goes up, your ventilation goes up. But since the body is such a huge mass, you need to heat up first. It's way more inert, so it's super slow reacting. It has quite a time lag. If you start with an exercise or high intensity, it takes up to 15, 20 minutes until you see that the core temperature is reaching a new stable.
That's the worst bit. Once you're hot, I always go, oh, thank God I could slow down. I could just jog. But yeah, if you're going to use any, I think the worst bit, and the bit I think that everybody I'd use layers. I don't, because I'm in a garage, so I don't try and heat it, because I think I'd get a divorce if I sort of turned a heater on in the cold garage just to heat me. It takes that 20 minutes of quite hard work to get your temperature up. But then once it's up, it's incredible that you can't get it down. Like you can almost walk, and that temperature, the body goes, once I've got that hot, I'm not gonna be able to cool down until you stop, which actually is a really good sign if you are like us, like shows you that if you get into that state on a long race, you can't just carry on. Your body is not going to be able to cool itself down. So let's get Lisa listening again, Gary, and try and get Toby. So if people are listening thinking, and they've heard me talking about, I've introduced this heat training into my training, and so everybody keeps asking me, but Eddie, so what is this hot race you're doing? And of course, my next race, Toby, is in Scotland. I don't know if you've ever visited Scotland, but it's not Dubai. We might get summer on one day, but it could suddenly be a really hot day, but it's more likely not to be a hot day. But there is lots of science and evidence now that the heat training is really effective as a training protocol, not just for heat. What is sort of the science that you've seen of improvements in athletes' VO2 and things like that, regardless of running in heat then after a bout of heat training?
What I know from science is that you can observe an improvement in the VO2 max. You're probably all familiar with this maximal oxygen uptake number, that you can improve that with a proper heat training block or program by 4 to 9%, which is pretty massive when you're thinking that even pro levels can increase it by that amount. So that was done with some elite cyclists. We can talk about the mechanisms or the physiological adaptations if you're interested in.
Yeah, yeah.
Sure. So basically what happens first, probably important to know that those performance gains in the cool environment you're talking of, I divide it always into two categories. That's more the long-term heat training, which elicits those benefits. And the other is the heat adaptation for a hot race. So as we talked before, to limit the performance loss when you're having a race in the heat. And what is basically happening in the body, if I just break it down in simple terms, is that your plasma volume is expanding due to heat training, and that leads to an improved or better stroke volume. So your heart is basically throwing out more blood per beat, which is lowering your heart rate. But the more interesting piece behind this plasma volume increase is that then basically the ratio or the hematocrit level goes down, and that is sensed by the kidneys, which are then triggering that there is a natural APO release, and that increases the red blood cell production.
I'm heat doping in my garage, aren't I? I'm basically
correct. That's the thing.
Yeah, I love it.
So with that, you're then basically producing more hematocrit or hemoglobin, and which are, as probably most of us know, are transporting oxygen to the muscles. And so with the increased hemoglobin, then you also have a better endurance performance.
This is because this isn't easy, is it, Toby? We should say this to people that I have talked, and I always talk honestly on the podcast, and I've talked about it being like another job. If you add heat training, especially as like you said, I'm doing it for the long-term adaptations rather than I'm going racing in a hot country. So I've been doing it now probably like maybe a month, maybe 6 weeks. It's taken me quite a long time to be able to put it into my training and not be absolutely exhausted after every session, and also to learn how to use the app, and also to know that moment when I go into the heat training zone, to know how far I can be in that zone, how long I can be in that zone. I guess it's different. Everybody is different as well. Are there any differences in men and women in heat training, their responses to heat training, or how they should train differently?
There is a difference about it, but from the literature side, there isn't much researched yet. But I'm not even super familiar with the differences. But I just heard that it's it's harder for women to get hotter. Just what I wanted to add is that it's basically a new metric you're tracking. So you just should start easy and not just straight away hammer it all in. Because it's a learning process.
It's very important, isn't it? If you start with heat training, I had heard the same, that it takes women longer to warm up, so it's just more load. We then have to, it takes us higher to get that core body temperature up. The men have a quicker thermal response than women. I think they did some studies in saunas, and men were like, I gotta get out. Us women, we can just put up with it. We'll just put up with it. So yeah, that's just interesting, and it would be a really interesting study to do, wouldn't it, to see how the difference it took women to heat up, well-trained women as well. That would be quite fascinating. Right. So yeah, you gave me a little warning sign, Toby, then of the dangers of it. And I've been using the app concurrently with a friend who's also been using the app, and she was a few weeks ahead of me, and I jumped straight in and went 10 out of 10 training load on the heat score. And she said, Eddie, have you not read all the documents in the app? So there's a great load of how to train, heat protocols, different protocols that you can follow in the app to help you. Of course, I hadn't read any of those, and I just gone in and gone 10 out of 10. What are the sort of measures that you advise people to do when they're starting? What are the sort of, not dangers, but what are the things we just need to be careful of if we're thinking of introducing heat training?
First and foremost, I always suggest to really hydrate properly and to track your hydration. So it's quite easy to step on the scale before and after the session and track how much you lost in sweat, and you always should drink. It's not advisable that you're thinking, I dehydrate myself to have better effects. No, it's rather an overdoing, and you're just impeding your recovery and your training adaptations. So always make sure to hydrate really well. What can happen if you do your first hard sessions is that you or what happens to me is that like my hands are just pulsating, and I'm never felt dizzy, but sometimes that can happen. And that's just the really first warning sign where you should turn down and just listen to your body and don't overdo it. It is hard the first couple of times, since it's just a new stressor. Probably most important, your brain is just not used to such a hot environment and exercising. Yeah, just be careful, listen to your body. And of course, you can also look on the heat zone. That's why we implemented a heat zone 4, not officially, but we call it internally a danger zone where you probably shouldn't go.
I call it the death zone, the Everest death zone. Don't go there.
It's not that bad, but you should be careful.
The other thing you should be aware of, which again I've learned I hadn't thought about, is that when you step off the treadmill or a bike, when you've been heat training, is that the next 10, 15, 20 minutes, you are continuing with an elevated core temperature for quite a long time. Again, I kept my suit on for another 10, 15 minutes, and it keeps that sort of heat, and it teaches the body how to cool as well, rather than you taking all the layers off and allowing the air to come in. And I think that also helps that adaptation. I've had a few athletes that have gone and felt a bit funny when they've stopped suddenly, and I said you need to keep everything on and almost just slow. It's like a cool down.
Correct, yeah.
But then also you get free percentages if you keep looking on your core app. It gives you normally another like 5%. Is there any difference between Gary and I've been laughing a lot because I'm very lucky. I've got a treadmill in my garage, so I can I'm now on about 6 layers plus the core suit plus hat, gloves. Yeah, it's good, Toby. It's good. You can come anytime and watch. It's incredible. But it's absolutely disgusting. It's just it's not a good look. But that's fine. It's in my garage. But people that perhaps don't have a treadmill, maybe they've got a bike. Is there any difference between if you're a runner and you heat train on the bike?
I used it also with some friends or other athletes I'm talking with about heat training, is that if you just have the bike, you can do it completely fine. There is a bit of a debate around the muscular load if you're still doing it while you're running. Probably you're a bit more used to it. But I think for just the physiological adaptations, your body don't care if it's on the bike or on the run. It's just a bit more for your feeling. For many, just the bike is working.
That's good to know. And I think as well, some people, perhaps if they're starting on their heat training journey, the bike is a little bit easier to get your head around. It feels less uncomfortable if you need to. You can put like just jumpers and hats on. Running is quite labored when you've got that many clothes on. And as you said, I've really noticed that my muscles become like prune. They're really tired, even though I'm running so slow by the end of the session. The next day I can feel it. I can really feel it. And I do think, Eddie, you should do this on the bike, but I really enjoy it. I run really, really super long distance, like 200-mile races. So there is something comparable about that horrendous heat training, like just running that slow, but with the brain going, stop, and me going, no, you got to carry on. You got half an hour. It's only said you're 2.5 heat strain. You've got to get it up. There's something quite similar in the mental process of it as well.
You mentioned hemoglobin earlier, Toby. So then I'd love to have 3 weeks out in Kenya, altitude camp. That would be phenomenal. But then
Patreons, come on.
Yeah. Could this do the same thing?
Yeah, like if you just look on hemoglobin creation or elicitation, it's basically leading to the same improvements on your blood levels. But there is, of course, a bit the difference with altitude. There it's more also triggering a bit on your ventilation. So breathing is just harder since you have less oxygen per breath. And it's just another way to create more red blood cells. If you're just competing on sea level, it should lead to the exact same performance increase. And that's also why there is this term, heat is a performance altitude.
I'm sure there's lots of people listening who are thinking, I'd love to try this out. Possibly like to manage people's expectations. Are there non-responders out there?
Yeah, I think it's with every training routine you're doing that some are more or less responsive, but it's probably the same as with altitude. If you talk to some sports scientists, probably everyone there is a performance improvement. To how much, that's the question. That's with every training regime, if you're training threshold or VO2 max or whatever. Yeah.
And from a racing point of view, there'll be lots of listeners. Could be a race for asking for a friend, a race at the end of July. How far in advance do you introduce this? It'd be to see the benefits, basically.
That's exactly this time course between the heat adaptation and the long-term hemoglobin improvements. So if you just want to be heat adapted, to have just a good race in the heat, you need around 2 to 3 weeks of a proper dedicated heat training blocks. And then you can do 1 week, or let's say probably a month before, you should start to have enough time to train specific for the event and induce heat training. But if you want to really have those long-term benefits, you should probably start 8-9 weeks before to do it a bit slower, the heat training, but really get those long-term improvements.
Well, I can see that if you want to get the quick heat adaptations, you really need to do it like almost every day. And then the rest of your training pretty much, it revolves around the heat training and recovery. It would be so easy to overdo it then and injure yourself or get yourself in a bit of a hole. So I would probably, from having done it, I would say give yourself loads of time, because I think I would almost do a like pre-heat block to practice how to use the app and how your body responds and how you can then, because I think it's taken me that length of time to just like learn how I can fit it in with training and my body to get used to it, and then it to be able to just become part of like going to the gym and that sort of thing. And now I think if I did like a concentrated block 2 or 3 weeks out, I could cope with that. And that would be, so I think everybody, if you're thinking about using this July race long term, give yourself loads of time so that you can see the improvements, I think, then as well. My resting heart rate has gone slowly down. My HRV has gone up.
Have you done then the same run, for example, post heat training and then now and noticed the difference in the metrics?
So I did a 2-hour run, so a 10-mile run, 2,000 feet, which I did about 8 weeks ago, and I did it about 20 minutes faster day before, with the same heart rate. There's so many other variables in that you could go, I had a good music on, but my perceived exertion was like, wow, this feels easier. But I think as well, there's a massive sort of like mental sort of placebo as well, that when you're heat training, it's so hard and horrible that when you've not got the suit on and you're like out running, you're like, it's so easy. I don't know. Toby's nodding as if he's...
Well, have you seen that in a more controlled environment than Toby? Say maybe on a treadmill in a nice temperature controlled room, a similar kind of experience, Eddie?
Yeah, I haven't really did like time trials to compare it, but I compared same interval sessions, and I also, as Eddie said, like perceived exertion was just lower. I had the same heart rate, but I just went faster by like 10 seconds per K. Yeah. So for like mile repeats. So that was pretty impressive to see.
That's really good, especially when you're as fast as you, Toby. That's like a whole training block worth of speed. Should you, something I don't do, and I don't know whether I should, is should you wear the sensor for all your sessions so that you're getting data for all your sessions, or should you just wear it for your heat training sessions?
Foremost for your heat training session, of course, to track it, but it's also interesting to track it or to observe it, how your core body temperature or the heat strain behaves during your daily sessions. So I would suggest to use it all the time. For me, it got just another tool as a heart rate monitor, which I just put on every training session. And since the design is like, it's just on the heart rate strap, I'm just putting it on and I have it automatically with me.
Did I hear that right? Again, I'm visualizing myself. So I could do my session on the treadmill in the gym, and then I could go upstairs into the sauna, but I don't wear the device in the sauna.
Yeah. What you're then doing is there is a manual input form where you set like start date of your sauna session and how hot it was, how many breaks you did, whatever, like all those details. And then it's just taking the last valid temperature just before you entered the sauna.
So I've worked out I can download the Core app, I guess, onto my Garmin so I can see it on my watch, because on the treadmill, obviously, it's easy. You can just have it up on your phone. Does that work across all other watch, like Chorus? Does it work with all other platforms as well?
We're having there a broad variety of hardware partners we're working with, but on Garmin, there is at the moment the best experience, since we can program our data field. And today there was just the most recent version published. So you can just track your heat zones on your Garmin, which is super handy if you put it on your watch or by computer. Then I don't even need my phone to do the heat training. I just can have a look on my Garmin, which is super handy.
That is a game changer.
To this experience, you want to strive with all our connected partners, but the most of them are at the moment supporting at least core temperature. So you can use it with core, Suunto, and some more like than in the cycling field, like Hammerhead and others. Yeah.
Well, you were going to partner with Training Peaks now quite soon. Are we allowed to talk about that? Yeah, because it's come out on my Training Peaks. Yeah. So that's another game changer for athletes and coaches. All my athletes are on Training Peaks that instead of them having to tell me the data, it will come into the plan as well. And there'll be some incredible graph metrics that I know Training Peaks will, and you guys will put on that I won't understand.
I imagine it's quite tricky for coaches because you might have athletes that, I don't know, turn up and go, Eddie, I've done 5 sauna sessions this week. And you're like, whoa, hang on a minute. You haven't taken into account all of the workload that I prescribed. Is that something that you're hearing a bit of?
Yeah, well, I do. I actually even am prescriptive of where I put sauna sessions for athletes because I'm a control freak. So I'm like, this is a good day for a sauna. Do not do a sauna there. And I also even prescribe the time depending on what their sessions are doing and stuff. And lots of them are using the core app now, but I can't see that data. But now I'll be able to see that data into Training Peaks as well, which is another, because there's no point having it unless, as you know, unless you can actually use it and interpret it. So that's really exciting as well.
By the time this podcast goes out, actually, the new sensor will be released. People are sitting there thinking, oh my goodness, I've just bought the old sensor. What's the hardware improvements? And I suppose, does the old sensor still work with the app?
The old sensor still works completely fine. So basically same functionality. It's basically a hardware improvement that we changed the clip solution, how you mount it to your heart rate belt. Now it's more a flexible clip on your heart rate belt, and then you just pop your sensor in and have it there. It's slightly lighter, but it was already really light and a bit smaller, so it increased a bit the comfort, but overall functionality at the moment is exactly the same. So you can still use both devices. Yeah, that's basically that from the hardware side. And as I said before, there will be those new functionalities coming with the passive heat training load calculation in the app, that you can also track this part of the heat training and all those connectivity updates. What's also pretty exciting for us, since, as we talked before, I also honestly do 3/4 of my heat training on the bike, is that we are also integrating with Zwift in a couple of weeks, which is pretty exciting as well.
So how will that work? What will you see in Zwift then?
You basically connect the core sensor to Zwift, and then you see your heat strain index and core temperature on Zwift.
This just blows those techie athletes' minds apart, doesn't it? Wow. So as you're doing Zwift races, you can see you're in the death zone, but there's nothing that you can do. Oh my gosh. Have we missed anything? Toby, have we missed anything that we should have asked you?
Think about heat, that's also a recovery tool, with the reason that you need to reduce your mechanical power. As Eddie said before, when you're hot, you're basically walking or just spinning your bike. So on a muscular level, it's literally a lower strain, but for your body, it's still the same or an increased strain. So you can also use it for some, lowering your muscular strain or mechanical strain.
Yeah.
We normally do a quick 5 questions at the end of each episode.
I think Toby would be up for the quick 5. I have a feeling that. Yeah. Okay. Wait 1 second.
Yeah, we've got to scramble now.
No, we haven't. We got it.
I'm always curious, though. It seems you're in a different country to myself. What would be, you finished a hard session, a hard run. You did the half marathon yesterday. What was the food? What was your go-to treat? What were you craving after the run?
Good question. I think in hot environment, I crave for an alcohol-free white beer. I think that's my go-to first.
Oh, before eating anything, just straight on the beer. Love it.
Yeah, just straight hydrate.
If you come to the UK, I think it's Manchester Marathon and York Marathon. They serve the Erdinger, the alcohol-free, and it's electrolyte. It's sports drink too. It's fantastic. Yeah, I'm with you, Toby. I'm straight on that. Oh, this is going to make me feel really old, actually.
I bet Toby didn't have this.
Do you remember what posters, does that word translate to, what posters were on your wall when you were a child in your bedroom?
To be honest, I was totally into football. So I had some posters of Swiss football players on. I just started in my 20s with running. So, yeah.
What team do you support, Toby?
FC Basel.
Last film you watched or you remember watching?
Difficult one. YouTube documentary. Was it? I don't know. I just look a lot of training documentaries and races. I think it was about the Swiss Alps 100 miler or something.
Oh, is that on your radar?
Yeah. Not the 100
Not the
miler,
100.
but the race for sure. I think I'm tempted that it's going to be my first 100K.
Yeah, a beautiful one. A beautiful one. There's some good YouTube. There's a guy that's done good YouTube videos. I watched him doing the Swiss 360, I think, or the 100 miler. It was really good. It looks so beautiful.
I'm missing out. Everybody I talk to watches documentaries, YouTube running.
Well, that's when we're on the treadmills or doing heat training, we're watching YouTube. You're watching some sort of terrible Netflix inappropriate.
It can't be cycling or running, but how would you pass your time on a day off?
Reading a book if I have time, and mostly cooking nice food, I guess.
Oh, what's your signature dish?
I think my beetroot cake is quite good.
Oh,
special
that's
one.
a new one. I expected you to say something cheese. I thought you were going to say tartiflette. Yeah, sorry. My raclette.
Every week we share the podcast over on Instagram, and we will create an Instagram story, Toby, and you get to choose the music. You get to choose the song. What song is it going to be?
I don't know if I'm allowed, but I normally pump myself up before a race, so we can just use the song I used yesterday.
Yeah.
Perfect.
It was in the end, like I'm always switching a bit, but in the end it was like, I think, it was The Sound of Silence. I don't know if you know it. It's like a remix thing.
Yeah, I've got that on my running intervals. And it starts slow, but then the beat kicks in. Yes, good choice. Yeah, excellent choice.
We will make that happen. Excellent. Well, thanks for your time today, Toby.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Keep us updated on any other new excitement. I will send you a screenshot of when I'm finally heat champion.
Oh, how
I reckon
lucky.
So lucky. I'll send you a screenshot, but I also send you a picture of my face as well of the just my eyes showing. I've got 15% more. I can do it. Thank you so much for sharing knowledge. So many more questions, but I think it's given everybody a really good flavour of how they might use the app, how they might introduce heat training. We should say as well, you don't need fancy gadgets if you just want to stick on a jumper, a hat, go on the treadmill, and actually just monitoring your heart rate is a great way to start. And the minute your heart rate goes above that sort of steady effort, you're probably at the right temperature. Spend a few minutes in that zone and see how that feels. See if you like it before you go to Lisa and ask if you can make the purchase. But thank you so much for showing us. We look forward to all the developments, and good luck with all your trail races as well. Keep us posted, and maybe come jump back on the podcast when Core 3 comes out.
Yeah, it would be really interesting. Thanks a lot for hosting me, and all good with your way to getting heat champion and summer races.
Thanks, Toby.
Awesome. Thanks, Toby. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Toby. So nice to meet you, and for coming and chatting all things core, heat training. I should add, and we did sort of touch on this a little bit about heat training, and I know I've been talking about it a lot, but you don't need this core temperature or any fancy gadget. You can just sling on a bubble hat. And Toby agreed with us, didn't he, at the end of the chat, that slinging on a ski jacket and a hat and doing some half an hour exercise in the heat, is adequate. And you also don't need to do heat training.
This is not a sponsored episode. Core didn't reach out. No money, no sensors have changed hands. This was just...
Gary, and you tried. Oh my God.
My best,
I love the journey I love the journey our podcast goes on, and the fact that why did I start heat training? I heard something about it. Actually, looking at Killian's Strava, he heat trains almost more than I do. And but I love the journey that this has taken us on, and I've talked about it in my training. And now we're best friends with Core. And I love the fact that none of that's planned. If we had a model of what It's a podcast going in the next few months. We couldn't have seen it.
There's no editorial, is there?
I love the organic content.
Thank you, Harriet Trail Running, for sponsoring our Strava Club and Tales from the Trails. Harriet is the UK's fastest growing brand for trail runners, providing specialist kit designed for superior fit, comfort and function with the best customer support. Check them out for race vests, waterproof, poles and other trail essentials at www.harrietrunfree.co.uk. Did you see John Kelly? I think it's technically a fun run, but he was using Harrier poles. I thought that was fantastic. They were all the way
amazing.
in Tennessee. Yeah, it was great to see them out on the course. Use the code T10 for 10% off site-wide, or check out their brilliant trail bundles for a special 20% off. First up in the Strava Club is Chris Reason. Total miles for the week 65.9 with the longest run of 23.8, 11,994 feet of vert. I really enjoy that because that might have triggered quite a few people just to get that extra 51 feet of vert just to tip it over. But no, Chris, you owned it. I was breathless just looking at Chris's Strava. Hill repeats, tempos, a VO2 max session. I think there was even some hill sprints, a big long run, weights on the turbo. Just such a busy week. I noticed too, Chris is a green runner. Great job, Chris. Second is Gary Mort, 62.7 miles, 22.5 longest run, 6,522 feet of vert. Looks like a lovely long run in the lakes at the weekend, and lots of the same running during the week. And it really intrigued me just to look at my Strava. And yes, probably about 70% of my Strava is
out the door, left or right.
If the wind's blowing east, I go one way, and if the wind's blowing westerly, I go the other. You may recognise Gary's name. If you are fans of trail running on YouTube, you will know Gary and his wife Cheryl. They are called the Trail Running Couple, and I wonder, they might do, say, the Kentmere Horseshoe or a race or something like that. Then they film their adventures and share it over on YouTube. I wonder if they were filming for a new upload. Last up, Caroline Duncan, 87.9 miles, 32.9 miles. Longest run, 8,118 feet of verts. A request to follow. But my goodness me, 32.9 miles for the longest run. I'd like to think that was a race, but in our community, that just could have been a massive adventure over the weekend.
Medium long run. Just a medium, midweek long run. Medium long run.
Easy run. Zone 2, Tales from the Trails.
We snipped this one from Facebook because we loved it so much. Angela Lawler and Simon Lawler completed the Hardmoors 55 race yesterday. Tough race, but feeling epic now. I should have that on for all day. Tough day, but feeling epic now in my pajamas. Eddie's voice was in my head all the way around. Breathe and believe. Saw a few runners donning their tea trail snoods and bobble hats. Oh, Trish, we know Trish coined the breathe and believe. Trish didn't make the sentence up, though. She been out there for... She did not make breathe and believe up. No, I will not have that. I cannot... No.
I invented the 2020. Trish invented...
2020! And the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, no doubt, as well. Yeah, Trish made our breathe and believe, and I now adopt it. And so she didn't patent it, and so tough. Sorry, Trish.
Copyright.
What a day that was. Been stressed all... Oh, no, Angela. Been stressed all week about it. Worry about the checkoffs. Checkoffs? That's what they should be called, the checkoffs.
Star Trek.
Were you worried about the Star Trek checkoffs? Been worried about the checkpoint cutoffs, getting timed out, feeling I'm not good enough or not race fit to finish it. Went through a whole host of emotions during the race. Elation, laughter, stress, cried a bit, swore a lot, laughed again. Relief and elation at the end. The weather was much warmer than expected, sweated loads, lost loads of salt that needed replacing. Then it started peeing down. Yeah, I saw that from mile 33-ish, which was persistent with mist and wind. Slip-siding in the mud, trying not to faceplant the mud, trying not to squash, suicidal frogs in the dark.
Saw this. Wow.
Oh my gosh. I'm not a fan of the frog, but I don't want to squash one. I just personally wouldn't want to hang out with one. But, in the dark. Oh gosh. She says, sorry, I do think I accidentally squashed one. No. I met a couple of guys after the White Horse checkpoint who kept me motivated and on track over the last 9 miles. Lost them with 3 miles to go, gave myself a good talking to, kept putting one foot in front of the other, and finally finished in 13 hours, 21 minutes at 9:30 p.m. after starting at 8 a.m. that morning. That was a shift. As we say, Angela, that was quite a shift. Love the Hardmore races. The camaraderie with the super friendly marshals and other runners is second to none. You can spend a few miles talking to complete strangers, then later, if you see them again, they ask you how you got on. You don't get that in a road race. No chatting in road races, is there? Yeah, you are. Feeling absolutely epic, hurting all over, DOMS kicking in, and 2 days off work to recover. Oh, what a legend. Hopefully I can walk normally again by Wednesday. Rest week, then we start again for the next one in 4 months' time. I love the tone of the end of this. She started off with the week from hell, stressed about it. Probably if someone had said to her, you don't need to do it, there's been a family emergency, she'd have been like, phew, thank God. Then we come out the other side. She's loving it. Epic. She's planning the next one.
If it's any comfort, Angela, we all feel those emotions. You're not alone there.
The week
People on the
before,
podium. Yeah.
Oh, you're like, I will do anything not to, please. Can I just lose a limb and not do this race? And then when you've done it, you're like, sign me up. We love your tales from the trails. Anything goes. This section is all about you. Oh, we should say well done to Angela and everyone at the Hardmore races. I did see that the weather, it was typical spring March.
Yeah.
Started delicious and ended up
Wear
all moist.
a t-shirt
the way it
with
goes,
pride.
Gary. Please email your tales from trails, or we will just nab them off Facebook to hello@tntrails.com.
Hot review. We have a 5-star review. Happiness in a podcast from previous guest and smoking fast.
Multiple guests, Katie. I think we've chatted to her far too many times, really, haven't we, Katie?
Katie Cars Saberstein. That's always my goal, Lakeland 100. Try and finish before Katie catches me over Turbo. Gary and Eddie are the loveliest podcasters and make me smile and laugh with every episode. I'm very pregnant right now and miss running, but the podcast reminds me of the wonderful runs to come and enjoy. Can I give you 10 stars?
Yeah, baby cakes. We love 10 stars. And I know the baby is due anytime. So Katie, maybe she's listening to this in labour. She's like the midwife.
Breathe and believe.
Music on. Anybody who's heavily pregnant, I send you those vibes. Oh, those vibes. I tell you what, though, two of my children came on or started to come on their due dates, Gary. They literally, my body is I was very proud of them. And then I must share my labour stories on the podcast one day.
I think Esme was hanging around.
Eating is like, no, I don't think we need that.
Esme, she was quite content. She did not want to come out, Esme.
Yeah, first babies. Anyway, Katie, we're thinking of anyone who's waiting for a baby to come, Katie, we're thinking of you, and we look forward to meeting Saberstein Jr. in the next few weeks. Thanks for all your reviews. Please keep them coming in. It helps other trail runners find us. Pop over to Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And if you want to leave a review, no pressure, but we love reading them out.
Thanks, Protein Rebel, for bringing us home. Whether you're trying to get a PB or you could be training for your first ultra, Protein Rebel's products are easy to digest with no artificial additives, providing both performance and overall health benefits. If you would like to try Protein Rebel and use the code T15 for 15% off your first order. To celebrate our partnership between Protein Rebel and the Teen Trails podcast, we're giving one lucky person the chance to win 600 gram tin of Accelerate protein powder, 100 gram tin of Run Easy collagen, 100 gram tin of Power Up magnesium, 9 maple Ignite maple syrup gels, 1 Tea and Trails hoodie, 1 Tea and Trails tech tee, and 1 Tea and Trails bobble hat. To be in the running for this incredible prize, you need to pop over to Instagram. You need to like the post. You need to share the post to your stories. Follow Tea and Trails and Protein Rebel over on Instagram. And in the comments, say what your bucket list race is. Terms and conditions apply. And this competition closes at midnight on the 31st of March 2025. So by the time this episode goes out, you will only have a couple of days to get involved. And yes, this competition is for Instagram only, and the winner will be contacted by direct message. UK only, 18 plus.
Oh, she counts me out then. It's pretty
Every
much my
week.
wardrobe. I know. It's pretty much my wardrobe. Teen Trails hoodie, Teen Trails tech t-shirt, Teen Trails bubble hat.
I should ask the guys over at Summit Crazy what the most popular bit of merch is that people buy.
Yeah. I was just thinking as you were talking, my tummy started rumbling, and I went wild this morning, Gary, and I never normally run without breakfast, but because we're recording early, it's not
Crack
early,
of dawn.
is it? The crack of dawn. I thought I'll just get out and get the dogs out for an hour, and then I'll have my breakfast as a treat
You
when I
went
come
for
back.
an hour without,
So the last 10 minutes, all I can think about is my peanut butter on toast. But I just kind of but then I miss my smoothie window because I normally have my breakfast first, then my second breakfast is my smoothie afterwards. So now I'm like, well, do I have it pre-lunch or will it
Just
ruin
do
my
it.
lunch? I just do it. I'm just going to go wild today. Just throw it all in. I have so many potions and lotions now that go into that. That smoothie. I love it. I've had to stop adding milk to it though. I can't keep up with the milk consumption. Right, what are we doing? What are we doing this week? What's happening?
Ooh, I'm looking forward to this because I know lots about the Race the Lap. We hear about it on the podcast quite a lot, but I will have been on parts of the route, but never kind of joined it all up. Reese, anyway, one of my friends, he is a Protein Rebel ambassador too. He is doing the lap this year, and instead of us lot dragging him on all county tops recce's, we're going to do a lap recce, and it involves a ferry. I think we're going to park and then get the ferry over. I'm so excited. I love various modes of train. A mini train, if my day involves getting on a mini train or an old steam train, that is a 10.
Does it often involve that?
Very rarely. I'm always disappointed, Eddie.
Yeah, this week is brighter. It's better. My best pal's at home. We will eat and feast like a king. The washing machine will be constantly on. I whine like a fish. Just spit it away. So as much as I love him being around, the general, everybody knows this. If your other half
Novelty's
works
worn off
away.
by Wednesday, isn't it?
So you're like, but he loves doing the shopping. Everything's like, yeah, do that. I'm like, oh gosh, yeah, I've done a workout already. I have killed this week. I'm back on the Pilates train, Gary. I used to do a lot of Pilates when we were in France, and then it's just not worked. So I've jumped back. I love Pilates, so I am back on that train. The first lesson back. Thank goodness let's just say thank goodness I have to do it live this week, but thank goodness I got the recording because I had to have some Eddie breaks. So the lower leg, double leg lower lift up loud, twistle, twazzle, whatever it is. Oh God, I've not done this for a while, but it's like coming back into an old pair of slippers if you are yoga, Pilates, that sort of person. And the reason that I thought, and I'm going to go back to this because one, I really like it, and I always love it when I get back on my mat. I went on a menopause course last week, which is very good. And one of the things that I learned from it was that we need to, perimenopausal women need to do activities not all raising that cortisol, but so I do a lot of strength work and a lot of running, and all of it is like fighting my body. Basically, it's fighting my aging body into what it doesn't really want to do. And so I thought, yeah, let's swap out one strength for Pilates. And boy, was it tough, but boy, did it feel good. So I'm going to keep that.
When Lisa goes, she said there's some people there with aging bodies, like you said, and they are ninjas. They can do
ninjas. What they can do with their legs, Gary, is absolute. My hamstrings, I don't know. I've always had tight hamstrings they're only just getting tighter, so I've got to continue.
I used to be able to put my legs behind my head. Since I started running, no chance.
What a picture I have in my head now.
Close your eyes, listeners. Gary, both of his legs.
I have got a busy weekend. It's a secret. I'll tell you about it after this weekend, what I'm doing. So I'm excited about that. And that's it. Almost the end of term for the kids, Gary. You won't be quite on this band, but I have got my diary cramming full. And then I'm like, oh, Lord. 3 weeks of...
I'm thinking about Esme's accommodation for next year. It is wild.
Oh, what? Stop it. So is she in like halls of residence now? And then
It's not halls. I suppose it is. They've got like a city centre. It's like a flat, but each flat has 4 bedrooms. I think so. There's 4 students. share a kitchen and a bathroom.
Okay.
We oh my goodness me, it was like the young ones. We went down there on Wednesday, I think it was, and there were her flatmates were in the kitchen. Incredible dedication to being a student, I think. All I can say.
Oh, wow.
Alcohol to food ratio.
I remember we used to just buy those like 20 kilogram, not 20 kilo, massive bags of pasta at the cheapest, like the Costco, and a thing of tomato sauce. I don't remember cooking very much at all, though, as a student. I don't remember food playing any role in my life as a
I
student.
think these are, they're a bit more sophisticated.
Yeah, the
definitely
generations
when I
have
was,
moved on now. Yeah, what are you saying? I wasn't sophisticated as a student.
I was talking about myself.
A much easier, steadier week this week, and the weather up here in Scotland has been incredible. Spring is springing. I stopped on my run today, and the hares were all boxing. You could not have a more spring scene of the hares, like 6 or 7 of them, and they were like
Country file calendar. That's brilliant.
It was literally a country file calendar moment. Much easier week with something exciting at the weekend. I'll tell you all about it next week. Thanks for tuning in. We love you all. Thanks for listening. Share the episode, share the pod, share the love. Pop over to Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and subscribe, or even consider becoming an awesome Patreon. Thanks to X Miles Precision Fuel and Hydration, Phoenix Lights UK, Harrier Trail Running, Protein Rebel, and Shocks for sponsoring this week's show. Here are the discount codes. Grab your pen and pencil. T10 for Shocks, T15 for Protein Rebel, T Trails 10 for X Miles, T Time 2025 for Precision Fuel and Hydration, and T10 for Harrier Trail Running. Thanks to our partners and patrons too. We couldn't do this without you and your ongoing support.
Let the trail rise to meet you and the wind always be on your back. Be kind to future self. Breathe and believe, and progress, not perfection. My name is Gary Thwaites.
And I'm Eddie Sutton.
And that was episode 114 of the Tea and Trails podcast.